everyone, my name is Leah and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my currently reading on my Goodreads, so that is every book that I have marked currently reading. And here's the thing, there's a lot of them. I'm pretty sure there's some books on there that I started several years ago that I still have not finished. So we're going to be going on a little journey and I'm going to go through the books and I might say a couple things about them and I'm going to try to estimate how long I've been currently reading them, and then I guess I can see how close my estimations were because Goodreads will tell me how long I've been currently reading them. Goodreads may not be entirely accurate because I don't always update right away that I'm currently reading something, and I know some of these say I'm like 0% of the way through and I'm actually further than that. So I'm going to be talking about how far through these books I am, and also all of these books I am planning on continuing at some point. If I decide to DNF, those books are not on my currently reading. So all of these books I am planning on finishing at some point, and actually a lot of these I am actually currently reading right now. I have somehow gotten into a state where I cannot focus on one book at once, so I'm currently reading like a million things. But my list of books that I'm currently reading versus my currently reading Goodreads list are a little bit different. So it is time to go into all of the books that I'm currently reading. I'm going to be referring to my iPad throughout this because that's what I'm going to use to look at the books I'm currently reading. However, I'm going to try to do a little screen recording on my phone later to show you my currently reading on Goodreads. I don't want to do it on my iPad because the screen is just very different and it'll show way too many books at once, but I needed to film on my phone. So I'll try to match that up with my footage. Hopefully that'll work out okay. So there are, I think, 33 books on this currently reading. Yes, I know, that is a lot. Like I said, I am not actually currently reading all of these at the moment, but I do plan on coming back to them. Hello friends, it is Editing Leah here because after I finished filming my video, I looked through some stuff and realized there are some books that I am technically currently reading that I did not have on my Goodreads currently reading, so I have now added those, and those were not in the video that I filmed. So now I have a couple more books to talk about, and I'm just going to go over those really quickly, and I really did not want to set up my whole filming setup again. So here I am vlogging this sitting in my bed. That's what we're gonna do here. So I think I mentioned that there were 33 books on my Goodreads currently reading. That is actually 38. Yes, 38. There are 5 books that I did not include that when I looked through some stuff I realized I was technically currently reading. So now I'm going to talk about those 5 books. And I think I'll try to start my overlay of the Goodreads here so you can see the books that I'm talking about. The first one is one that I'm like actually currently reading, like actively reading, so I don't know why I didn't put this on Goodreads and why I forgot about it, but that's Wonder Woman the Rebirth Deluxe Edition Volume 2. I read Volume 1 earlier this month and really enjoyed it, and so I picked up Volume 2. These are like chunky collections, so it is taking me a bit to get through it, which is why I'm still currently reading it. Usually graphic novels don't take me that long to read, but this one's like over 300 pages, I think. And I'm probably around halfway through or a little under halfway through, and I started reading this just a couple weeks ago, or actually probably less than that because it was like mid-September, and now it's almost the end of September, so I guess it was about 2 weeks ago. But I plan on finishing that soon. I don't know if I'll finish it before the end of September, but I'm planning on finishing it soon. Then the next thing we have is Breyer's book by Tamara Pierce, which is I think the 4th book in her Circle of Magic series. This is actually a reread via audiobook that I started. I read this for the first time a while ago and I pretty much forgot everything from it, so I was doing a reread. But I started this near the beginning of quarantine. I guess not right at the beginning because it was the end of April, but like when I was still very, very anxious about things. Not that I'm not anxious about things now, but I picked it up, and what I had forgotten is that the entire book deals with a mysterious illness, and then a couple of the characters are exposed to it and they end up having to go in quarantine. And I was like, I cannot possibly read this right now, so I put it down. I do have the intention of going back to it, probably not soon, though I will say my anxiety is less now, so maybe I could, but I don't know. So I don't know when I will actually reread this book. Then the next one is Tales of Greek Heroes, which is just like a collection of tales of Greek mythology. And I own this, and I opened it. I think this is one, you'll see later in this video, this is kind of a trend of books that I decided I was going to start reading, and I like open them and I put a bookmark in them sometimes with the intention of continuing, and then I didn't. And I think this was at the end of April too. We're starting to get into the territory that was like March and April, where I was in a massive reading slump because it was the beginning of the pandemic and everything was awful. Everything's kind of still awful, but everything was very awful, and I had a massive reading slump and I couldn't read anything. The only things I was really reading were like rereads and maybe a couple graphic novels, but that's like the only reading I was getting done, and even then I wasn't doing that much reading. And then I started to get out of that slump, and I've had reading slumps again since then, but I haven't had like that particular brand of reading slump again. The next two books that I'm going to talk about were victims of that particular reading slump. The first one is Too Like the Lightning by Ada Palmer. This is an adult sci-fi. I think it's the first in like a trilogy. I know there's at least one other book. I think there's 2 or 3 others. And my friend recommended this to me, and I think I'm going to like it. I only got like 20 pages in maybe. It's pretty dense, and that coupled with the reading slump was not a good combination at all. Like I said, I was not reading like anything new, so to have this dense sci-fi was even worse. So I think that might have made my slump worse, and I do plan on going back to this eventually, but I'm not sure when. And the last book that I somehow forgot to put on Goodreads that I had started was King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, which I still have not read. I want to read it. I think I read a chapter of it. I really don't think I read much more than that. I only read a little bit, and then reading slump. So I have not picked that up again. Not sure when I'm going to do that. Hopefully I will get to it this year. I don't know. But that is the last of the books that I forgot to mention in this video. So now we will go back to our regularly scheduled programming. So first up is A Song of Raisin and Ruin, which I actually just started today. I'm 2 chapters in, and I'm enjoying it so far. I'm buddy reading this with a bunch of friends, and I'm also reading it because it's Chanel's Krusty Club book pick this month. I'm really excited to keep reading this. I'm enjoying it so far. So that is a book I actually am currently reading, and I started reading just today, actually probably like an hour ago as of filming this. Next is another book I actually started today. I started it this morning, and I've gotten pretty far through it because I've been listening to the audiobook while I've been doing some other things today, and that is Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde, which is a collection of essays and speeches that she's done. She talks a lot about racism, sexism, classism, homophobia, things like that in her essays and speeches, and I'm liking it so far. I'm actually pretty far into it because it's not super long, and I'm listening to it on like 1.75 speed, and I think for me audiobook was the way to go for this because it is nonfiction, and I usually do better with nonfiction on audio. So I'm pretty far through it, so I think I will finish it in the next couple of days. So hopefully I will finish it this month, because my TBR for next month is already out of control. Next is The House in the Cerulean Sea. If you've been watching my channel for a little bit, you know that this was one of my favorite books that I read in the month of August. I loved it so much. And yes, I am already rereading it. I'm actually reading it via ebook, even though I have the physical copy right here. Here it is. Even though I have that physical copy, I am reading the ebook because I got that recently. But I'm rereading it via ebook because I'm reading it sometimes at night right before I go to sleep and things like that, when I just need something cute and happy that I already know to just get me through it sometimes. I think I'm about 1/4 of the way through right now. I started it a couple weeks ago, I think, but I've been reading more of it over the past couple of days, so I think I might get through it in the next week or 2, because I am doing it rather slowly, like I said, and just kind of picking it up when I need a little pick-me-up. The next thing on here is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, which is a young adult contemporary. This is her newest book. I read Monday's Not Coming by her in July, I believe, and it was so good. Monday's Not Coming is excellent. I definitely recommend you check it out. I talked about it in my July wrap-up, I think, but there are a bunch of trigger warnings for that, which I listed a bunch of them in the video description for that, so check those out. And Grown so far is so good. But the thing about it is that it is about a very difficult topic, because the entire premise for this book is that this girl named Enchanted loves singing, and she gets kind of taken under the wing of this musician named Corey, who is horrible, and he grooms her, and she's 17 and he's way older, so it's about like that unhealthy age dynamic and how he exploits that. And the book is kind of about that, and also about the fact that he has now been murdered, and there's a mystery about who has murdered him. And it's so good. Like, I already know it's going to be a 5-star read. It's so good, but it's very difficult to read, and I'm buddy reading this with my friend RC, and we're both going through this very slowly because it's such a difficult subject matter that we keep having to stop and take breaks from the book because it's horrible. Not the book, but like the content. It's not done gratuitously or anything. I think the author handles it very, very well and respectfully, but it's just so difficult to read about, so that's why I'm still reading that one. I'm just going through it very slowly. And I think I'm about 40% of the way through now, and honestly, we're going through it so slowly, I don't know that I'll finish it this month. The next thing that I'm reading is Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. I've actually only read the prologue for this, which was alright. I'm actually not sure how much I'm going to enjoy this because I read the America comic that Gabby Rivera did and didn't really enjoy parts of it and didn't really enjoy the writing, so I'm a little afraid I won't enjoy this book. I've also heard that this book has some harmful anti-Indigenous content that Indigenous creators have spoken up about, and the author has not responded well to these creators. I'll try to link the tweets that I found out about that down below. So I think I'll end up reading this and I'll comment on that, but I honestly haven't fully decided if I'm going to keep reading this. If you've read this and have thoughts on that, please let me know down below. The next book is Leviathan by Scott Westerfeld, and I haven't read anything by him before, and I'm like 1 chapter into this, I think. Not very far into it at all. I started it a while ago, then I just never continued. It might have been like a month ago, I want to say. I plan on continuing it soon. It's actually like on my bed right now because I was going to read more of it today. I haven't yet. Don't know if I will because I want to make progress in A Song of Raisin and Ruin. But I will read this soon. Let's see when I actually did start reading it. I started reading this book on September 8th, 2020. Less than a month ago. Okay, that's not too bad. The next book is the second book in the Fairyland trilogy by Catherine M. Valente. The Girl Who Fell Beneath Fairyland and Led the Rebels There. It's such a long title, I can never remember the full thing. But this is the second book in a middle grade. I thought it was a trilogy, but I think it's a quartet or a series. I'm not sure. But I really enjoyed the first book. I want to read the second book. I've been reading it for a while. I'm over 2/3 through, I think, even though Goodreads says I'm 0% of the way through. That is not true. I'm a good chunk into it. But I think I was reading it and then I fell into a reading slump, and my reading has just been all over the place recently. I've been getting a lot of reading done, but it's mostly been audiobooks and graphic novels. I've been having a hard time reading physically lately, but I am enjoying it. I hope I finish it soon. Then the next book on here also says 0%, but I'm not 0% through it, and that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I'm really enjoying it so far. I know that I'll like the rest of it, but it is a dense fantasy, and I fell into my reading slump like right after I started reading it. I think I'm like 6 chapters in, and I haven't picked it up again. Probably in like a month I haven't picked it up. Let's see what date I started it. I think it was over a month ago. Okay, this also says September 8th, 2020. Did I just start reading several things on September 8th? Okay, I definitely entered these into Goodreads late because I know for a fact that I started reading The Fifth Season in August because that's when my reading slump happened. So I think both Leviathan and this I actually did start reading over a month ago, and Goodreads is just lying to me because I lied to Goodreads about when I started them. Then next on here is Before the Devil Breaks You, which is the third Diviners book by Breyer, and I think this percentage, 57% of the way through, is correct, but I haven't picked this up again since I hit 57%. I don't know, I just like then wasn't in the mood for it anymore. Also, I was supposed to be buddy reading and then I failed at reading it. I was supposed to be buddy reading it with my friend Andy and he finished, and then I kind of lost like all of my motivation to read it. A lot of my success with physical reads lately has been with buddy reads because that's what motivates me to read. But then I'm like failing some of my buddy reads. I'm a disaster. I don't know. But I am really looking forward to reading the rest of it. Hopefully I will do that soon. I'm just gonna keep saying hopefully I will do that soon. Next is The Two Princesses of Balmar, which also Goodreads says I am 0% of the way through. I am not. I think I'm like 90% of the way through actually. I was reading this as an ebook and then it returned to the library. So that is why I originally stopped reading it, but here's the thing, I put it on hold, got it again. I have it right now. I have not finished it yet. I will try to do that soon. But I've had it again for over a week and I haven't finished it, so I just need to sit down and do it. But like I said, my focus, my everything, it's just, I don't know what my reading is right now. I'm very scattered. Next is Middle Game by Seanan Mcguire. I think that 18% is accurate because I was updating it, and that is actually a reread. I don't know what happened. Maybe I went into a slump. I don't know, but I stopped rereading it. I know I'll reread it again sometime because it was my favorite book of last year. It was so good, and as soon as I finished it, I wanted to reread it again. And I started doing that in June? July? Let's see what Goodreads says. July. I started it on July 8th this year, and I have not touched it since probably like middle of July. So it has been 2 months, over 2 months since I touched it. When will I reread this? I don't know. Probably not in October, because my October TBR is, well, you will see soon. The next thing on here is Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. I don't think I've touched this in several weeks. This book I am buddy reading with my friend Bracken, and we are both going through it so slowly. I think we started reading it at the end of July, maybe? We're, you know, a good chunk of the way through it. We're like 3/4 of the way through it, but it has taken so long. And literally, I cannot read more than like 1 chapter in a day because each chapter is so long. I don't know why these chapters have to be so long. It feels like every chapter follows every single character. If there are multiple point of views in a book like this one, I prefer each chapter follows 1 character or 2 characters, not like 5 characters. There's just so much going on in each chapter, and you just get like little snippets and then like some sort of thing that's like a cliffhanger, and then you won't find out until like a chapter or 2 from then. And it's like, I know that it's supposed to keep me reading, but it just leaves me exhausted after each chapter because each chapter takes me like over 20 minutes to read, and then I'm just like, I don't want to read another chapter right now. It's not a book that you can just pick up a chapter and read if you only have a few minutes, because I don't like to leave off in the middle of a chapter. I like to finish my chapters, so it's hard for me to just pick this up casually. It feels like every time I pick it up, it's like an event. So I'm struggling to make my way through this book. I am already saying right now I am not going to finish this before the end of September, so this is again going to be on my TBR for next month. Reagan and I will get through it eventually. When did we start reading Lord of Shadows? I think Goodreads might be a little bit off. This says July 4th. Oh, we started it at the beginning of July. And the last time I added a status update was 16 days ago. Next is The Tiger's Daughter by Kate Arsenault Rivera, which I think I started reading in May or June. And I got a chunk of the way through it. Not really far. Farther than the 0% Goodreads says. But I'm probably going to have to start over because it's been so long. And here's the thing. I was making my way through that book. I was. And I was actually going to read it for a 24-hour readathon that I did, which I never edited or uploaded the footage of, and since it was in May, I think, I don't know that I will. Is anyone interested in seeing a video of a 24-hour readathon from like several months ago? If you are, leave me a comment down below and say that you are, but otherwise I am probably never going to edit and upload that. But I was going to read this book for that 24-hour readathon that I did, and also that 24-hour readathon, I did not sleep. It was a full 24-hour readathon, which I then, trust me, regretted. I severely messed up my sleep schedule for several days, but you know, I was unemployed, so I was like, what the heck, I'll do it. Not doing that again. If I do another 24-hour readathon, I am sleeping. I am sleeping at least for a couple hours. And if I say to anyone that I am attempting to do one again without sleep, please yell at me, go, Leah, you said you weren't going to do one of those again because you need sleep, because that was rough. And now I don't remember a lot from some of the books that I read because I was so tired. But anyway, I was going to read this book during that readathon, and then in the theme of this readathon, wherein I spilled 3 drinks over the course of the 24 hours, I spilled a mug of tea onto the book, onto a lot of the book. So then I had to take care of the book, try to clean everything up. I had to try to dry the book, try to make sure the pages wouldn't stick together. It looks mostly okay now. Alright, I found it, and if you look at it from this angle, it looks fine. If you look at it from this angle, it looks fine, but you can see exactly where I spilled the tea on this book. Honestly, this looks better than it did when it happened. The pages were very wrinkly. I put it under some very heavy things, but then it was recovering from the tea for a while, and then I never picked it back up. I'm going to eventually. When? I don't know. Then there's Children of Blood and Bone, which I got halfway through, and then didn't finish. I think I fell into a reading slump. Now we're getting into the, like, I started reading these a while ago books. I started reading this 5 months ago. Oh, I see. I started reading this in April. Not even May, in April. April 18th is when I started reading this book. I got halfway through. I did not continue. I want to continue. I'm going to continue, but I did not continue. And the problem is, it's now been so long that I might need to start over, but I don't want to start over. I didn't think it was bad, but I wasn't loving it. So maybe I'll try to find the audiobook and listen to the first half on audiobook. Next is The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and that 0% is probably just about accurate because I think I read 1 page and then didn't read more. I think this might have been when I was actually still working. I started reading this book on February 9th, 2020. Yeah, I was still working, so my schedule was all over the place. I wasn't doing that much reading. I was definitely, schedule-wise, extremely busy, so that affected that reading, so I never continued with that book. But I still have it. I still plan on continuing with it at some point. I'm just not sure when. Next is Authority, which is the second book in the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer. I read the first book, Annihilation. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a little weird. I mean, that's the point of it. It's supposed to be weird. A little confusing, but I think it's supposed to be confusing, but I did enjoy it. Also, the covers that I have are very pretty. I really like them. And I got a chunk into this. This says I got 46% into it. This might be another one that I have to restart. I don't want to restart these books. What day did I start this? February 5th. February 5th. I do plan on continuing with it. I will, at some point, continue with it. Then we've got Little Women. Little Women I started reading, I think in January. I started reading it. I read a little bit of it because I wanted to read it before I saw the movie. Then I didn't. So I read like a couple chapters and then I went and saw the movie. Love the movie. The movie's excellent. Then I tried to read it again in July. I was only like 60-ish pages into it, but I started again from the beginning. And that book is chunky. My edition, it is like a short one, you know, but it's 777 pages. And I decided I was going to read it for the reading rush, which I then quit the reading rush after 3 days, and then a bunch of things happened with the reading rush, and I failed at reading Little Women. Everyone was like, Leah, why'd you choose Little Women for the reading rush? It's such a chunky book. And I was like, I know. This will motivate me to get through it. Joke is on past me because I have still not finished it. According to Goodreads, I'm 41% of the way through it. I think I'm actually a little further than that. I think I'm about halfway. This looks about halfway, right? Maybe a little further than the 41% that Goodreads says. Yeah, I haven't picked this up in a couple weeks. I will finish it. It is now my mission to finish this. And my friends are going to see this and be like, Leah, you still haven't finished Little Women? No, I have not. I know. I like it. I do like it, but I'm just going through it so slowly. Next is The Good Neighbor, the life and work of Fred Rogers, which I picked up, read the foreword of. I really liked the foreword. Then I started reading the actual book, and I don't know, I thought it was a little dry, but I was reading it physically, and I don't do well with nonfiction physically, So I actually haven't decided whether or not I want to DNF this. I think I might look up some reviews on it and see if people said it was boring. And if there are enough good reviews, I think I will continue it, but I'm going to try to find the audio for it because, like I said earlier, audio is the way to go for nonfiction for me. If not, I will take it off my currently reading because I don't know that I will ever read the physical. Then I have All Out, the no longer secret stories of queer teens throughout the ages, and here's my thing with this. It is an anthology. It is a short story anthology. I don't do well with short story anthologies. I haven't really found that many I really enjoyed, unless I think they're all like in the same world or something, or with characters I already know. I have a hard time with ones that are like by a bunch of different authors in the same book, because there's always a couple that I really like, a couple I really don't like, and then a bunch that are just kind of meh. So I don't do well with those. I was enjoying this one, and I think I was picking it up and reading like one at a time, but I don't own this. I think I was reading it via ebook, and there were a couple times, like I've been reading this for a while, there were a couple times I think the ebook returned, and I don't have it out right now. Maybe I'll have to check it out and reread it, but here's the thing, now I don't remember any of them. So do I have to reread all the short stories I read already, even though I don't think I liked them all? When does Goodreads say I started reading this? Oh, apparently I was giving little updates on what I rated each of the stories. Oh, and I was 77% of the way done. I was so close. I started this, oh my. I started reading this on July 11th, 2019. The last time I had activity on this book was 6 months ago, when I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars to one of the stories. And we have Into the Wild, which is the first Warriors books in the Warrior Cat series. I don't know if any of y'all read those in your childhood, but I was obsessed with them. And a while ago I decided I was going to reread them. So I opened the first book. And I really mean, I opened the book. I did not even start reading. That is why Goodreads says 0%, and that 0% is actually accurate, because I opened the book, did not read it. But I do plan sometime soon, don't know when, I really don't know when, I do plan on doing a 24-hour readathon where I try to read the entire first Warrior series, just for funsies. Perhaps that progress will update soon. Let's see, what day did I, oh dear. I started reading this book on December 21st, 2018. Then we have Persuasion by Jane Austen, we have Emma by Jane Austen, and we have Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I think these percentages are a little bit off. The Mansfield Park one might be accurate. I think the Emma and Persuasion ones are off because I read more of the books than that. But here's the thing. I took a Jane Austen class in college because I was an English major, and we had to read 6 Jane Austen books.
Paid $120,000 for someone to tell me to go read Jane Austen, and then I didn't.
I read half of them for the class. I read the other 3, I probably read half of each book. I was busy. I did not have time to read all 6 Jane Austen books. I really enjoyed the class. If my professor ever watches this, don't know how she would find it, but if she ever does, I am sorry. But I do plan on continuing those eventually. I still have the books. I plan on continuing them, but I have not. This would have been fall semester of my senior year of college. That was a rough time. Then we've got The Pearl Thief by Elizabeth Wein. I read Conan Verity by her, and I really liked it. And The Pearl Thief is following one of the characters from Codename Verity. It's like a prequel, I think. I opened this, I read like a couple pages, I borrowed the ebook of it, didn't continue with it, the ebook returned, I have not checked it out again. I started reading this on August 15th, 2018. Then we've got Legend of Korra Turf Wars Part 2. This is volume 2 of Legend of Korra Turf Wars, which I read the first volume of, really enjoyed. Love seeing Korra and Asami being sapphics. Started reading this on August 13th, 2018. I plan on reading it at some point, probably gonna reread volume 1 first, but I want to rewatch Korra first, because I've actually only seen Korra through one time. I think this is another one where like, I was gonna start reading it, I like opened it, then did not read any of it, so the 0% on Goodreads is probably accurate. Then we've got In the Afterlight by Alexandra Bracken. I read Darkest Minds and Never Fade freshman year of college, I think, and I really enjoyed them, and I do plan on continuing with In the Afterlife, but I read them then, had the first book, started it, got a tiny bit through, I want to say a couple chapters, and then I just never read it. Couldn't tell you why. And then, a couple years later, I think, I reread Darkest Minds and Never Fade, so I could then read In the Afterlight, and guess what? I didn't read it again. I started reading this, oh dear. See, when I click on it, the start date says August 12th, 2018, but this says, you started reading this book on November 2nd, 2015. I think that's when I actually started reading it the first time, and then 2018, August 2018, was when I started reading it the second time. I'll read it at some point. Then we've got the Duchess of Malfi, which I was reading for class. Honestly, not sure if I'll actually ever continue this. But at some point I plan to continue it, which is why I kept it on here. I was a little over halfway through it. I should have finished this for class. Again, if somehow my professors for these classes ever find this, I am so sorry. I was going through it, alright? Then we've got The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I think that's another case of, I picked it up, I put a bookmark in the first page, because I was gonna start it. I did not start it. March 15th, 2018. Have not picked it up again yet. Then we've got The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien, which I have read before. It was a very long time ago, but I have read it before. I might have started it. I don't remember. If I did, I barely got into it. And I plan on doing a reread of all of those books at some point. This I started January 27th. 2018. Then we've got Everybody's Talking About Jamie, which is the script of a musical that I saw the one time that I went abroad, and I saw this in London, and I bought the script of it when we were there with the intention of reading it. Yeah, I think I started it. I got nothing. Then we've got Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I started reading this. I read almost half of it. Oh, this says 35%. That's a little less than almost half. So I read a third of it. I was really enjoying it. I think I'm really going to like this book, especially because it has to do with, Shakespeare and theater, and I'm a theater person. Let's see, when did I start this? We are in 2017. This was December 14th, 2017. I don't even know why I stopped reading this one. I actually had decided I was going to read it. I actually had decided I was going to finally read it, and I was probably going to start from the beginning, because this is one, you see, I started this almost 3 years ago. I don't remember a lot of it. I actually had made the decision to start from the beginning and read it again in, I want to say, late February or early March of this year, because the plot of it reminded me of a show that I was working on at the theater I was working at, because the show was about a traveling group of performers who were putting on a show during the Black Plague. And that was also paralleled with, at one point in the show, the playwright's experience with the AIDS crisis. And Station 11 is about a group of traveling Shakespeare performers during, post-apocalyptic times, I think. Then, we went into a pandemic. I did not want to read this book when we were in a pandemic. We are still in a pandemic. But I might read it soon. I don't know. I might be more okay with it now. The anxiety and terror, it's still here, but at the time was fresh, new. Decided I didn't want to read this. Also, can we just talk about the irony of putting on a theater production about a group of performers performing during the Black Death? And then we had to close the show early because a pandemic happened? Can we talk about that? All the articles that came out about our show were the unfortunately timely, the coincidentally timely, the unknowingly timely. Yeah, it was a time. Alright, we only have 2 books left. First is The Innocence of Father Brown, which is a collection of short stories about this detective named Father Brown. I think we only read a couple of them for class, and then I decided to finish it on my own, and then I didn't. This says I'm 64% of the way through. That's probably correct. Here's the thing. I had a copy for that class. It was a detective and mystery fiction class. I had a copy of the book. That book is not on my bookshelves. I don't know where it went. I don't know what happened to this book. And I feel like at this point I'm determined to find it, but it's been a couple years and I haven't found it, so I don't know that I will. So maybe I just need to rent this book from the library and read it. But now it's been so long that I'm do I have to start over on this book? But this I know because I started reading it for class was in sophomore year of college. So let's see what date that was that I started reading this. September 21st, 2017. That's when I started reading this book. That is over 3 years ago. Then we've got the next book, which is also a book that I started reading for that class. It's a huge collection of short stories. We only read like 2 of them, I think, for the class. Maybe it was just 1. And that is The Complete Sherlock Holmes by Sarther Conan Doyle, which I still own. And this book, the last book, the book that I started the longest ago, I started on September 15th, 2017. Like I said throughout this, I plan on continuing with all of these at some point. When will that point be? I could not say. If you've read any of these, or if there are any that you think I should prioritize, please leave me a comment saying that down below. Let me know what you think on these. This video has been very rambly, has been me just being a disaster, because this is who I am. If you've gotten to this point in the video, please leave me a green heart in the comments. We're gonna say a green heart because my Little Women is green, and these green hearts will hold me accountable for finishing that book. I will finish Little Women. I will. I promise. Anyways, you made it through this video. If you liked it, please give it a like, and you can also hit the subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Then we have House in the Cerulean Sea was one of my favorite books that I read in September. I think I read it in it's September right now. This month is September. I have lost all concept of time. In a middle gear load error. The internet connection appears to be offline. Please hold.